Yiannis, for the second.
Thank you. Usually I like to start all the sessions really with a process, an exercise or a meditation. Depending from which school of thought you are, you will understand a meditation or an exercise or a process. They are all actually meaning the same thing, an endeavor to come in contact with a higher aspect of your consciousness through a particular process of acknowledging different parts of your nature and invoking other parts of your consciousness. However, due to the time shortage that we have and so much more work that we have to cover, we will skip that part of it, and we will combine the two different exercises at the end part, the last part, in the end of the session. And I hope that at that time the exercise will actually mean a little more for you, because you will be internalizing all the things that you've actually experienced in the whole process of the information and all that actually belongs with these three sections. Now, in the second part of our inquiry, we wanted to cover a little more about the 10 spheres and all that is associated with them. And I say all in all humbleness, because clearly we cannot possibly cover all. We can only just touch some aspects of the meaning and all that the spheres endeavor to invoke in us. I have, without too much artistic talent, created another tree on a blackboard, and there you have really the numbers that belong with the 10 spheres, 1 to 10, and of course I could have added the numbers that belong with the paths, which start from 11, 12, 13, 14, going down up to 32. However, it will become so jumped up with information that you won't be able to read anything there anyway. So I decided to only put a few things just as a reference point for whatever we actually practice and try to engage with in this second section. Will refer in one way or another to various of these names, numbers, and words that are on the blackboard. Basically what they are representing is, what we have said in the first part of the session is that there are 4 different worlds or different realms in each sphere, as well as on the whole tree itself. And we have called them the realm of emanations, the realm of creations, the realm of formations, the realm of actions or manifestations or expressions. And clearly we have also said that as the lightning flash goes down, what it does is unveils in each one of the spheres a different quality or a different state of itself. And clearly each one of these states contains within it the whole tree and all the 4 different levels of that tree. So we said that each sphere has the level of emanations, the level of creations, formations, and actions. And further, we are saying that there is a God name that really encompasses or embodies the essence of emanations. There is an archangelic name that embodies the essence of creations or the ideal world, and there is an angelic host or a group of angels which embody within them the qualities of the realm of formations. And there is an actual physical, what is called a chakra or a planet or a body that is also incorporating within itself the quality of the realm of actions. At the top of the number 1, the God name is Eheye, or the I am, as we have said. Yeah. And the second, the God name is Jehovah, or as I have said, I have put here just the 4 letters, Yod He Vav He. Now there is a difference between Jehovah and Jehovah. Yod He Vav He. Jehovah is the tribal god of the Jews. But Yod He Vav He is actually the letter representation of the 4 divine attributes of the Creator. And there is a great deal of difference, and that's a fundamental mistake that many Kabbalistic inquirers make, in that they call Jehovah the same as Jehovah or Yod He Vav He. Yod He Vav He are the 4 Hebrew letters that incorporate within themselves the 4 aspects of the divine, i.e. the power aspect, the love wisdom aspect, the activity aspect, the creative activity aspect, and the destroyer aspect. And these 4 aspects of the one life, of the one God, so to speak, are incorporated in the Yod He Vav He. The Yod He Vav He can also be seen as Yod at that plane, Vav He, Yod He Vav He. So the 4 planes of emanation, creation, formation, and action can also be seen as the 4 letters Yod He Vav He. Another way of also seeing these 4 letters is to see the 4 elements of air, fire, water, and earth. And clearly you will have the air plane, or the breath as it is known is in the India terms, on the higher, the fire plane, the watery plane, which is governed and synthesized by the moon sphere, and the earth sphere, which governs the physical, more grosser material. Now, one other thing I want to incorporate is to say that really each one of these states are not separate from the other states, in the sense that it's not like one on top of the other, like a ladder like that. But within space itself, all of these states and conditions of being exist. In other words, if you look in the water, in a little lake or in a pot of water outside, you may actually, after concentrating on it, see that within the substance of water there are various other densities of matter. You may see light inside the water, you may see various other particles inside the water, and so within that same space that the water occupies, there are various other states. Now, another way of seeing it also is that water has different states of itself. You can see water as ice, you can see water as steam, you can see water as liquid. And so you see that each one of the states is contained within the state of water, within the condition of water, but actually is unfolded when that substance comes in contact with another substance that we call heat, and it may be bringing out of itself the expansiveness of heat that it contains within itself. That's why I'm trying to say that each one of these spheres contains every one of the other spheres. And it cannot be any other way. Otherwise, the concept of omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence, i.e. that the high is in the low, and the low contains potentially within itself the high, it will not be possible. The law of correspondence could not actually work if that were not the case. And all inquiry, as we have said in the first part, takes into account these principles and these natural laws of correspondence by reflecting the lower in the higher and the higher in the lower, so that there is communion can be brought about out from the communication or interaction or relationship that our consciousness has with the various aspects of life. And so clearly I have just outlined here the God names and the actual names of the angelic forms, and the spheres also have their own body, if you like. Here is the body of earth, or the body of the elements, the body of moon, Venus, Mercury, the sun, Jupiter, Mars, and here the Greeks put Uranus, Kronos, and Neptune. However, the other Kabbalists may actually use a different representation. They put the whole zodiac here, and Saturn, and here they simply put the primum mobile, i.e. the first motion. Primum mobile is a Latin word which means the first motion. And can you conceive of life without motion? Is it possible to conceive of life without motion? And clearly motion does not only imply something moving where you can actually see there can be motion without anything moving, i.e. there can be a vibration in what appears to be a static form. You know that in the atom there is constant vibration. There is nothing that is actually static. So the life is constantly in motion. And motion is the first experience of life. And so in each one of these spheres there is certain words that we have, i.e. the crown, the wisdom, understanding, mercy, severity, harmony or beauty, the victory, glory, foundation, and the kingdom of the elements. Now, one of the ways that you can begin to start to relate practically with these spheres is clearly to ask yourself, what is my kingdom? You see, your kingdom can be the place where you are sitting. This you can declare to be your kingdom. Your kingdom can be your bedstead, your mansion, your house. Your kingdom can be your very body in which you are actually living. And say, what have I done today that actually demonstrates a kingly expression? You do realize that you are a king in your own kingdom, and you can give decrees, you can give certain orders, you can actually express yourself in a kingly way, in a royal way, as it may be said, and live a life in your own world, definitely as a king, rather than just simply aspire externally to the qualities of the king. You can unfold those qualities within you. So you ask yourself, what is my kingdom? And in what way am I ordering my kingdom in accordance with the inner ideals, qualities that belong with a well-organized and a well-run kingdom? The second sphere, going from the lower upwards, number 9, which we call the foundation. What is our foundation? You can ask yourself, what is my foundation? The foundation is really the various concepts and the various ideas that we have which govern our thinking, which govern our relationship to life. And we all have them. We all have preconditioned ideas which we have taken as our foundations by which we endeavor to build the temple of our self-consciousness, of our self-awareness. And whatever your foundations are, what are the concepts that you have accepted as your foundations? Have you inquired to see whether they are really founded upon the principles of life, upon the natural laws of life? Or are they simply some cooked up ideas by somebody's mind, delusions, illusions, etc.? Because one of the other negative aspects of the foundation is the illusion that you do have the right foundation. And this also is known as the realm of fantasy and illusion. And so you have to inquire deeply into the various foundations of yourself and try and see what is there that represents foundation material in the way that you think, in the way that you feel, and then reject those that do not come up to scratch, or say that I need further study before I can actually accept that as my foundation. Because really, our prejudices become the foundations from which we govern the way we rule our kingdom. So if you have a prejudice against black people, if you have a prejudice against Indians, if you have a prejudice against white people, if you have a prejudice against anything, against one particular religion or another religion, one ideology or another ideology, this prejudice becomes your foundation from which you subsequently order your kingdom, i.e. your faculties, your thoughts, the way you relate with your neighbor, with your friends, with those who fall into the category of your prejudice. A prejudice is actually a groove which you have created in the foundations of your consciousness, and on which you have put the blocks that build your own kind of psychology. And they do not allow anything to come into your consciousness unless they come via that particular avenue or that particular groove, and anything else is alien, and you will not have it, and you will not accept it. And much has been lost, and many wars and many kinds of conflicts in the world have sprung up out of the prejudices of ideologies or religions or concepts, etc. And so we have to inquire, what are our foundations, yeah? Now the next sphere, we talk of its victory. Victory, what are you victorious over? In your life, you have attempted to create, you have attempted to succeed. What is it that you are endeavoring to be victorious over? Are you attempting to become victorious over your lower nature, your lower passions, your lower fantasies, your lower type of, and I say lower fantasies because fantasy is the lower misuse of the creative power of imagination, which is a most magnificent tool, but then when it is used in the realm of delusion and in the realm of losing touch with reality, then we call it fantasy. And so we have to realize and ask ourselves the question, what am I aiming to become victorious over in my life? What we are trying to do is really make some sense out of these spheres in our own daily living. Because I can go on and just give you all the names and all the associated relevant things that belong with each sphere, but these are available in lots of books. And I'll give you a list of books where you can actually find them. If you so choose, you might already have them. But I'm trying to incorporate in this session some way of looking and relating with these concepts, with these ideas, that will mean something into your daily life. Now, the other side of glory, are you endeavoring to self-glorify yourself, or are you endeavoring to realize the glory of the one divine life? Because much of our efforts really is tainted by the self-glorification, the selfishness. I am better than you. I have a bigger car than you. I have a bigger house than you. I have a greater memory bank than you. I have really a bigger filing cabinet. Therefore, I do better in the world. And so I attain more glory. What kind of glory do you wish to attain? You've got to ask yourself, how in others have I earned the quality of glory? In the eyes of others, not in your eyes. You can ask your friends, as an example, and say, do you see in myself, in my character, anything that inspires you of the glory of God? Have I demonstrated in our relationships some kind of quality that will touch in you the mystery of that glory of the one life? And if the answers are no, from your own friends that have known you and shared you, then you must ask yourself, what have you been focusing your energies upon? Because I am sure, no matter how small you are, how little you think of yourself, how small your self-created image is, still, to date you have attained something that contains within it a fragment of that glory of the one spiritual life in which we breathe, live, and have our being. And so, moving on further up, it might be a little bit more difficult to relate with that concept of harmony. Has there ever been in your life an experience which you can call it was in perfect harmony? That everything just blended and happened absolutely just as they were meant to be. There might have been just a moment, just a glimpse of that. It might have been when you woke up one morning by accident and you drew the curtains and there it was, the beautiful, radiant, rising sun out of the sea in one of your holidays. And you just got caught for a moment, and there it was. Everything was just beautiful, just perfect. The harmony of the light of life being brought by the sun. The birds were singing. You were just captured by the moment of that harmony of life. But clearly you also must ask yourself, in what way am I expressing myself in my daily relationships that bring about the harmony with the whole and not conflict with the whole? Because if I have, as we said earlier on, prejudices, if I have already certain foundations that are not harmonious with the principles of life, then the way that I will express myself will not be in harmony with life itself. What I will relate with will be disharmonious. There will be a discord in my nature. All diseases, whatever they may be called, and I speak of diseases because in the sphere of the sun, of the harmony, one of the powers to be within that sphere is the power of healing. All diseases of whatever order, whether psychological or physical, are a phenomenon of disharmony. A phenomenon of disharmony, where in some way or another, some self-expression is blocking the flow of energies, the natural flow of energies, which are to be expressed in a harmonious way with life itself. And clearly, it is when we understand that the universe has an order, and that there are certain principles and there are certain laws that govern all relationships of the heavenly spheres, as well as all our inner relationships. Every cell and every atom works in accordance with this law, and in the ancient mysteries of the past, they used to externalize in a ceremonial way the functions that take place naturally and harmoniously within our bodies, so that we, by reflection, may get our consciousness to vibrate in sympathy and in harmony with the harmony of life. Because clearly, already within your body, the perfect harmony has manifested. You know, the cells from the heart do not one day decide and play the role of the liver cells. And the cells from the actual brain that do not decide and say, I am going to go in and play the role of the lungs. They actually maintain their work in accordance with their duty and in accordance with their particular blueprint or genetic pattern, as it is called. And so we have to ask ourselves these questions, and in so asking, not grab hold of the first possible answer that comes to us, but look at everything that arises out of our subconscious, and then still go beyond. Still go beyond and ask continuously such questions. Further up, mercy. Of course, we cannot be merciful to God. You can only be merciful to something weaker than you. Do you understand that? I mean, God does not need your mercy. So that which is higher is not in need of your mercy, but that which is lower in level of consciousness, in level of awareness, certainly is in need of your mercy. Are you being merciful to your body, which is a lower form of intelligence than you? Because clearly, if you push it and stuff in it foods that are bringing about in it the wrong kind of vibrations, the vibrations that congeal, that harden and clearly bring about obstacles in the natural flow of the blood, in the natural flow of energies, then you're not being merciful to your physical body. And I'm trying to make Kabbalah a living experience for you by relating in your daily life, not just simply a cold glyph and a diagram that you study, you look at the words, you learn about this and you learn about that, and so what, as I have said in the first part. All you've got to do is just get a book and it's all in there. But what I am trying to awaken in you, you might not find in books. You might not find this relationship, this way of thinking, this way of looking, this way of inquiring, where you look at everything as a symbol, your body as a symbol, your eyes as a symbol, your emotions as a symbol, your thoughts as a symbol, everything that you see as a symbol. And I tell you, if a man looked at a woman as a symbol of the motherhood of God, or as a symbol of the female aspect of God, of the infinite, absolute, divine beingness, then certainly he will treat her with much more respect and much more with an interest to each moment discover something new in her, and vice versa, a woman to a man. But what we say is, oh, I know her, it's always her, she just, it's always the same. For a while, it's all exciting, we meet someone, it's all new, and we learn a little bit about them, and we think we know everything about them. And then we become bored with their way of life, and we perhaps turn our eyes to something else. But if we looked at them as a symbol that veils the hidden mystery of the divine, and each time we look in their eyes, we seek to discover a little further, a little deeper, a little more of that divine, then clearly we will maintain our interest in constantly communicating and relating with that human being, instead of breaking our interest, because the more you have an interest in something, the more you invest yourself in it. And that all comes out of this relationship of the Kabbalah. When you do not have an interest in something, it's easy to let it go. When you do have an interest in something, then it's not so easy to let go. It is not so easy to give up things that you still have an interest in. So learn to be merciful and ask yourself, am I merciful to the lower kingdoms of life, to the vegetable kingdom, to the animal kingdom? Because these kingdoms exist within your own being as well, not outside of your body, also within your body. You have the vegetable kingdom, the mineral kingdom, the animal kingdom within your own, and also the human kingdom, which is the next one higher in the evolving ladder of life. And so further on, you ask the question of severity. The other side of severity is really the invocation in us of the quality of fear. And I call it a quality because certainly there are negative qualities and positive qualities. There are negatively charged or positively charged. But the energies themselves are neither bad nor good. They are what they are. And sometimes it is necessary to use a negative energy, and other times it is necessary to use a positive energy. It is the mistake of the Catholics and the Christians who have actually created some kind of a devil that we must absolutely detest. In the psychological blueprints of the past, which really held in the thraldom of ignorance the inquiry of the human mind for generations. But indeed, all we are talking about, and in the inner mysteries, a student of the Kabbalah learns to place his feet upon the black tiles as well as the white tiles that form his foundation. The black tiles being symbols of the actual negative energies, and the white tiles being symbols of the positive energies. The black tiles being symbol of the feminine aspect of God or of life, and the white being a symbol of the positive or masculine aspect of God of life. These pillars are known as the white pillar and the black pillar, or the feminine pillar and the masculine pillar. And these qualities exist in each one of our spheres, and certainly if we focus our attention too much on one, i.e. the negative quality, we might become taken over by that quality and subsequently lose our balance. And so within each of our spheres, we have to maintain a balance in being able to use the left and the right. It is said that there is a left-hand path and a right-hand path. But I tell you, you should follow the path of no hands, but uses both hands. Are you better off by just having only one hand? No. Surely you're better off by using both hands. And so it is necessary, just like nature uses the left hand. Nature does not just get stuck with a positive thing or only growing. At some point, the tree must eject its leaves, and the leaves break down in accordance with the negative energy of breaking down, of separating, so that they may become the nutriment for the tree to bring the fresh fruit. And so ask yourself, what within my character are those aspects, those qualities that I am to resolve, to break down, to make, to return back into their original substance, so that I may then reincorporate it and create a more beautiful, a more purposeful thought form in my life or condition in my life. And this is also some of the questions that you may ask. Because everything is created by the elements. Earth, air, fire and water, but not only as earth, air, fire and water as we see them on the physical plane. They have equivalent on the emotional plane, on the mental plane, and on the spiritual planes. For they are symbols of life unfolding itself in those 4 levels and densities. And the emotional level, as an example, fire may be enthusiasm, but it also may be anger or irritability. And water, the quality of water, certainly might be the concept of cleanliness on the one hand, and it might be the concept of purity, but it also might be the concept of vacillation. Vacillating, not being able to be decisive about what you need. The earthly concept of the earth, the dense material, in your ordinary character, you might look at it as really the quality of stability on the positive side, But on the negative side, you might be very rigid. You might hold on to things too much. You might have too much possessiveness on certain aspects of your life, and thereby becoming prisoner of them. Whatever you cannot live apparently without, you are a prisoner of. Think of it. Further up, we talk about wisdom and understanding. Well, these are the supernal spheres as we know them, and clearly not many human beings touch the qualities and powers that belong with those spheres. Hardly any of us have ever really manifested real wisdom in our lives. But indeed, we do get the experience of it manifesting in a different format on our ignorant plane of personality. And this can be seen as skill in action. Whenever you manifest skill in action, then you are manifesting a certain aspect of wisdom. Skill in action. Whether that skill happens to be in playing tennis, whether it happens to be in counselling, whether it happens to be in driving, whatever in your life you happen to be actually able to demonstrate skill. In playing the music, in playing whatever other instrument, you are demonstrating a certain aspect of wisdom, but only the lower aspect of wisdom. Understanding, often we call that which we really have as information. I understand that, and all it means is that you have some information about it. Understanding is not just having the information. The concrete mind gathers the information about a particular inquiry. Let's say you're trying to find out everything about triangles. So you look at the different types of triangles. There is isosceles triangles, there is small triangles, big triangles, and you gather all the information. But then you have to actually penetrate beyond that information by asking, what is the relationship of the different shapes, sizes, and numbers of lines and so on that I have in front of me? What do they mean? What is the purpose for which they were created? What is the source from which that symbol emanates? And in asking these different 4 levels of questions, you are actually trying to penetrate on the 4 planes of existence, as we have called. First, you're talking about the appearance. You look at the thing, what kind of color does it have, what shape it has, and whether it's long, short, big, small, and so on. But beyond that, you're trying to penetrate deeper, and you say, what does that mean now for me? In what way can I relate with it effectively? And then beyond that, you say, what is the purpose for the existence of such a thing? What is the motive of its existence? And then seek even further to penetrate in the source from which it springs. And in asking these 4 questions on anything that you inquire, on anything that you actually study, you are invoking the light of intuition that can truly illuminate the concrete mind that has bothered and taken the trouble to gather all the information, and then you may get a synthesis, a flash of brilliance, a flash of expansive awareness that can see the underlying quality that synthesizes all of these different facts and figures and information that you have found. And of course, what can we say about the crown? What can we say about the I am? Well, if we knew what the I am is, then certainly we will not be here today, would we? We will be, all of us, fully conscious, fully aware, communicating to the masses that are not aware what they are absolutely, the richness that they are missing out of life. You understand that knowledge liberates. Christ said, know the truth, for the truth will liberate you. So one of the qualities that belongs with that plane is liberation. You may have had this experience when you have had the labor those of you that have given children. And then comes the moment of liberation. At that moment, on the physical plane, you have the manifestation of something of that august high plane of existence. When you have liberated yourself from a particular negative habit, where you are utterly free from it, when you are utterly empty of it, then you have experienced the quality of that manifesting in your daily life. And we have to start relating with these spheres, as I said, in this particular way and ask this kind of questions. Else they become simply technical points of argument, of discussion, and that's all very well, but really they do not invoke in us the qualities and energies and powers of our unrealized potential, so that we may see it in the mirror reflection of expression and know that it is good. As it is said, God created the universe and saw that it was good. And the universe existed. The universe is a thought form, if you like, in the mind of God. What kind of thought moons live in your mind? What second-hand shop have you bought them from? You go into bookshops and you buy second-hand thoughts, I said. And all those thoughts that you buy are second-hand. There's nothing wrong with wearing second-hand clothes, providing you extract out of them the light that belongs to no one. Then it's no longer second-hand, because it is your own light too. But you must discover the light within you that you shed upon the second-hand thought form, that actually can touch the light within that and liberate it. And that is also a crowning experience. The liberation of the light within matter, the liberation of the light within a thought form, the liberation of the light within a particular habit. The habit can be a positive or a negative. And this is also a crowning experience, because you are crowned by the light that is released from that experience. You are blessed, in other words, by the light of that experience. And it is only when we inquire and investigate something in this way, and we come in contact with that fire and that energy and that light, that our investigation promotes itself of its own accord. We are full of energy. We are full of enthusiasm and power. It is not a tiring experience, because constantly we live in the center of that energizing principle. But if we only live in the outer court, in the realm of appearance, then we become exhausted very easily. We become tired of things. We become bored of things. We become bored with concepts. Yet the same concept that you have become bored with, another can take it and actually be inspired to climb the mountaintop of self-realization. So what is it that he has seen in the same concept that you have discarded? You must ask yourself, what am I discarding that may have the very essence? It is one of the qualities of searching. The searcher carries it's a tarot card, and carries a lamp in full daylight. What is he seeking with this lamp? He may be standing, it is said, on the patch of his own diamonds, and he's looking outside. So look in what you already have and see what light can be liberated out of that. And so these are some of the concepts that actually we can begin to engage with in relating with the 10 spheres. But in the second part, we also said that we're going to do some practice. So I would like you to participate in some of these practical aspects of the Kabbalah as well. In the first part, if you remember, we talked about the divine encircled cross. The circle, which is just and we said that if these lines were expanded to ad infinitum, they actually will reverse back upon themselves and create this kind of sphere. So, one of the things that you can actually begin to do, to find a place, sit down comfortably somewhere, and let us do it now after I explain to you what each one of these means. So you have this sphere, this line, this circle, which is on the horizontal plane. So you can be looking eastwards as an example, and you see a circle around you going from east to south to west and back north and back to the east. And that is one circle. And then you have another circle from here going up above your head, down below to your left and under your feet. And then you have another circle from front right to the back and under your feet again. So you are inside what might be called a sphere. You can say to yourself, I now align myself with the eternal aspect of the one life when you are creating this sphere, the horizontal sphere. And so, you can take your 3 fingers, the thumb, the forefinger, and whatever that one is called, the Saturn finger, and these 3 together. By joining them, energy actually penetrates out of these fingers. And by this energy, you say, I now, by establishing this circle, align my consciousness to the one eternal. And you bring it round to the one eternal life. Then you can say, once again, I now align myself to the infinite space, so that you are not limited within your own particular mental space. You can expand your mind into the infinite space. And then bring another circle round this way and say that I now acknowledge the infiniteness of the events that are possible to be experienced within my life. So, first of all, we establish a connection with the eternal, then we establish a connection with the infinite space, and then also a connection with the infinite number of possibilities, or the infinite number of events. Because clearly, often we limit ourselves, and we say, well, this condition, this event that I am involved in, well, what can I do? Poor me. But if you constantly, each and every day, practice this very simple exercise, where mentally, emotionally, and physically, you are actually participating in this alignment or connection with the eternal aspect of life. We always complain we don't have enough time to do things. The eternal has all the time that it actually ever needs. And as I said, the eternal is in the moment. The moment is not separate from the eternal. And so, by making this circle from east to south to west and to north, and you can return it backwards, you can even do it in your imagination, but it is best to start by actually doing it physically. Or you may choose a little wand. Yes?
That's all right, I was just copying what you were doing.
All right. You may choose a little wand. A wand is actually just it can be this pen. That can be termed a wand. And so, by holding it in this way, you can say, I now align my consciousness to the eternal aspect of life. And you can turn it round and complete it into the east. So you face east, and you begin with that circle, the circle of eternity. Then you create the circle of space, infinite space, and then the eternal, the infinite possibility circle. Okay? So this simple cross, the divine encircled cross as it is known, by practicing it in that way, you begin to invoke from the subconscious mind that you have the great store that exists in the divine mind of God, in the divine eternal aspect of God, in the divine possibilities of God, and by aligning yourself with that, clearly, you begin to express the qualities of that, so that you can realize the God within. Have always seen God outside of you. You know that in all the old books they say if you enter a circle, then you are safe from the devil. You know, if you enter a circle, you are safe from the devil. And as long as you stay in the circle, you've seen films of all sorts of nasties. Have you ever asked yourself, why should, if I enter in the circle, nothing can touch me? Do you really think that just by simply drawing this circle in chalk and you step on it, the devil will not touch you. Well, you're mistaken if that's what you think. It will not have any effect whatsoever on any entity that wishes to trouble you or in any way to possess you or in any way to manipulate your mind. Unless you, in your inner consciousness, have projected out of the infinite life that you are, the power of what that circle means, i.e., an affinity, a connection with the eternal, an affinity and a connection with the eternal source of all power. All and everything must yield to that, and all and everything must respect that. For that wholeness is much greater than the part, and any part, no matter how powerful it is, must bend its knee to the absolute, to the eternal. So when you make this circle, generate within you the fervent aspiration and the fervent emotional fire that belongs with the connection that you are connecting to that eternal. Then, if you are at any time are feeling that you might be in a place where certain negative energies exist and certain negative thought forms exist, and you might be finding that you are being manipulated in some way, if you begin to actually practice this very simple exercise that I'm suggesting to you, eventually you will be able to discover that you can also banish negative thoughts from within yourself, dissolve them, by the power that you unfold out of the infinite source of life that you are. And so this is not only so that you can protect yourself with little circles in the woods or with little circles in your rooms to play and say, I'm now protected from the devil. You can actually create that kind of sphere internally in your consciousness and align it with the eternal power of the one life that you are. And because of that alignment, because of that connection, you then have the power to handle any particular negative habit that you may have created in the past over a long period of time. Now you might be able to handle it by the concentrated energy that you can express out of the infinite source that you are in just a few moments. So it does not need to take the same amount of time that you have created a negative habit to dissolve a negative habit, as some people actually assume. And many people have been cured from lots of different negative habits, such as alcoholism and all the rest, by some of these methods. Now, first of all, we said this particular exercise, okay? But as well as these three aspects, then you also must connect yourself with that power that exists within you, the I am, the microcosmos. Because these spheres, they have to do with the macrocosmos as well as the microcosmos, but you have to express a symbol out of yourself that has to do with the perfection of man, with the actual aspect of life as it is in man. And that symbol is the pentagram. If we stand like that, we are actually a pentagram, okay? If you look at it, you see an upward pointed pentagram, okay? Now, the pentagram also has been very misunderstood and mistaken, and all kinds of mambo-jumbo has been associated with the pentagram. But all that it is the human being. And any time that a person is, pentagrams, ooh, you're dealing with the devil or with devil worship and all this sort of stuff. Yet the one who is saying it is the pentagram himself on the physical realm. And of course, this which manifests on the physical realm has a representation in the emotional, mental, and spiritual realms too. And there are 5 states of expansion of consciousness that bring human consciousness into the perfection of manhood. When you have reached the perfection of manhood, you have reached what is known as the 5th stage of consciousness. The 5th stage of consciousness, the consciousness of what's known as a master in the Theosophical terms. So, to be a master, it means to have actually perfected the qualities that belong with that particular symbol, which is a symbol of the microcosmos of man. And of course, that implies a great deal for those of you that have done some study in Theosophy or Kabbalism. We are also explaining really what these symbols mean for us. And if we are to practice any of these rituals, we have to have a relationship with the symbols, and we have to have the relationship with the tools that we use. If we just use the tools empty of the inner relationship, they are useless, they are powerless. So, the next thing that we must actually realize is, what is the tunic? You know, the magicians, they wear a tunic, a robe. What is it meant to symbolize? When a person goes to practice a ceremonial, what does he actually symbolize when he's putting his tunic on? Depending on the color, of course. It can be a certain color of tunic, for that it might be white, as an example, and you wear a white tunic. You might say then that as I now put on this tunic, I aligned my intention with the purity of life. And so each time you actually put the white tunic, and you don't have to put it physically. When you do certain of these meditations, certain of these exercises, you can visualize yourself sitting comfortably, and then you stand, you create the actual circle, as we have said, the circles of life. Then you see yourself dressing yourself with the actual tunic, a white robe from the neck downwards, and with that you are helping your consciousness to generate the vibration of purity, as an example. When you put a hat or a crown above your head, this is or a belt, as the magician in the tarot cards shows, whenever you actually do that, generate in you the connection with the fact that you're making direct link with Kether, with the highest, with the one above. And so by putting the crown, it's known as a crown. And so all magicians, they wear a hat or a crown, and so, but who is actually explaining what this means and why are they doing it? What they are actually saying is that I now make contact in myself with the crowning presence of life. With the crowning presence of life. And then also in magic and ceremonials you have a wand. The wand symbolizes your will. The will manifesting in an expressive, creative way. Whereas the sword might be also the will, but manifesting and expressing either a protection for a weaker brother or a weaker intelligence, or a distraction of that which no longer belongs, no longer is valuable, no longer is of value. So, you are creating now an exercise. You say to yourself, I now stand in this place in space, and I begin by aligning myself. You have your wand. I begin by aligning myself with the absolute eternal of life, and you generate that in yourself. But out of practice comes the benefit. If you do not practice it and you just hear the words, then it remains as words, and you think, yeah, I know about the Kabbalah, I've heard it, I've heard these things being explained to me, but they will not bear any value in you. Then, having done so, you actually create, we said, the other sphere, and you say, I now align myself with the infinite space, and then I now connect to the infinite possibilities within me. Then you are within this great sphere. Subsequently, you begin by saying, for thine is the kingdom, once again, for thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So, for thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. In this particular exercise, if you actually begin it in that way and end your exercises or meditations in that way, you're actually aligning yourself with the great powers. For thine, which is the name of the above, I am or thou art, is the kingdom below. The power, that is here is the power, and the glory. Or if you are doing it in a lower plane, it might be the power and the glory. Because that here represents itself here, diagonally, and that represents itself there. And so clearly what you are doing is connecting with the qualities and powers that exist in these actual spheres. And as you are doing that and repeat the ceremonial and the exercise and the meditation, you think that meditations are something that only when you actually sit down and, meditate. All life is a meditation. When you walk, that is an exercise, is an expression of life. What is meditation? Meditation is the outflow as well as the incoming of the energy of life. Meditation is actually the formal as well as the formless aspect of self-expression. Meditation must have certainly the formal aspect where you sit down in a certain posture and you do certain gestures, but it also must have the formless aspect of the inner aspiration, the inner connection to things. And one without the other is empty. Certainly you must manifest the inner into the outer and resolve the outer into the inner. And this is the whole process of meditation. Meditation really is an exercise. When you sit on a loo, you are exercising. When you eat, you are exercising. When you breathe, you are exercising. All of these aspects are meditations of part of your nature. Only you, in your consciousness, are not aware of them. And to become aware of them and to realize what they mean is to actually extract the richness out of those happenings. And so, when you say, "For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever, amen," what you are actually doing is really, as we said, connect your own consciousness with the I am, with the kingdom, and the power and glory. And he who actually gave this prayer, I, Christ, certainly knew his Kabbalah, because it's all part of the Kabbalah. And St. John the Divine, who wrote the Revelations, there he also knew his Kabbalah. He's got 22 chapters, and certainly there are 22 paths. And within the Kabbalah, and within St. John the Divine's revelation, the whole mystery of these teachings that we are inquiring now are there. But who has ever broken the seals and symbols of the revelations? Many have tried, but it is only when you make the right inquiry, with the right timing, with the right insights, and the right keys, that you can unlock the mysteries. For all the mysteries were veiled in allegory, in parable, and in symbol. Okay? So, we're still continuing with this ritual. We said, first part is we make contact with the three circles or the three spheres. Second part is we establish ourselves with the power of the divine in our own kingdom, and the power and the glory, so that we may then express ourselves in whatever we want to do. Then we may turn to the east and perform what is known the banishing or the invoking star. The banishing star is from left, up, down, there and there. That is the banishing star. The banishing star is really, you're creating a pentagram, yes? You're creating a pentagram out of yourself. And in this way, you can actually dissolve and banish various thought forms that bother you, various habits that bother you. If you identify various of your qualities, you make a list on a piece of paper and you say, on one side I will write and I will put that which reflects the mirror of the shadows of my life. On the other side, I will place those words that embody the light of my life. So you have the mirror of the shadows and the mirror of the light, i.e. negative qualities and positive qualities. And you may say, here is my condition. Now what must I do? And you can actually learn to resolve, to dissolve. Banishing means to actually dissolve a thought form from a negative state that no longer serves you, and then you can release the materials in the ocean of the substance. You can take the same materials and actually use them in a higher form, the very same materials, and you have become a savior of matter, because you have taken matter which was in an unuseful condition, and I tell you that everything in creation seeks to serve. Everything in creation seeks to serve. So when you have a particular negative habit, you have gathered material and you have given it a form of a negative order, and that is working against the actual law of evolution for your own self-consciousness. And by actually releasing and dissolving this now, you can take the same materials and use them to create something higher. To give you a physical example, we're talking about the 4 elements. For thine is the kingdom. This is the kingdom of the 4 elements. And these 4 elements are what we are working, the materials that we actually work on the different dimensions of our life. Therefore, let us now see a practical example. If we have a laboratory, we have these 2 things, and we have some muddy substance here. We take a tube and we connect them and we apply heat. What will happen is the water will evaporate and return to its natural source, and the earth will remain in its natural order. What happened to the muddy condition? It's disappeared. It was only a phenomena of the mixing of the earth and the water in a certain way. So you apply a higher energy and you actually release them in their natural constituents back to their original form. Then you can take the water and the earth and mix it up and make a beautiful vase to have your flowers in your house. And so in that way you can see how you can do the same with the bricks that form your temple. You have created a temple, you have created a character in which you live. This character is made out of bricks, some of which are actually not very smooth. They're very rough. You have to actually resolve them and smooth them, or smooth the edges, or actually dissolve the material and recreate your temple with the same substance but in a more purposeful way. A lot of your character has actually become created out of ignorance. In ignorance, we express ourselves in various ways, and in those ways we create parts of our character. But with knowledge now, we can begin the process of what's known as spiritual alchemy, which is also part of the teachings of the Kabbalah. And so, the next step we said, we create the banishing star. The star, every time you create it, means that you are aligning yourself with the perfection, the power of perfection, the perfection of man. So you're saying, in the name of perfection, I now banish all that is not perfect within this particular quality. So clearly perfection means that which is absolutely in perfect harmony with the one life, with the one purpose. Unless you are in some way aware of what aspects in your character might be negative and need to be dissolved, need to be banished, in other words, you will not know what in you to dissolve and what in you to highlight and to power. So when you are actually making this symbol, you are making an affinity with the power of perfection, with the idea of perfection, and you can say, I now banish out of my character that which does not harmonize itself with perfection. So it may be that you have a particular habit, and this habit may be, let's say, gossiping. And gossiping, it is a negative habit. I know it is a very well accepted in our culture, but it is a very negative habit. So you can say that I now banish out of my character the expression of that habit. I dissolve it out of my temple so that I no longer manifest that. That is what's known as a banishing star. But you may want to invoke and call something into your sphere of consciousness of a positive order. You may want to actually come in contact with one of the archangels as an example. The archangels meaning certain level of intelligence. So you might actually start from the top then, the same star, because archangels meant to demonstrate and express perfection. So in the name of perfection, you invoke the archangel, which may be the archangel Raphael, or the archangel Michael, or the archangel Uriel, or the archangel Gabriel. So in the east, you stand, and having banished that which is negative, then you may turn to the south and banish that which is also negative, turn to the west and banish that which is negative from the west side, and also from the north side. Then you turn back to the east. You may then, at that same time, create the invoking star from above, down, to the left, to the right, and down again, and above, and that invokes for you the archangel. Let me just do them so that you know. So, the banishing star starts from below, goes up, down, across, there, and there. So it's that way. Okay? And ends back there again. The invoking star starts from above, and finishes at the top. So you start at the top, go round, and finish at the top. That you call the invoking star. You start at the bottom of your left foot, you go up, down, across again, and down again. One is called banishing, the other one may be called invoking. You may actually do the invoking star in the morning if you want to practice that exercise I'm explaining to you, and the banishing star at night, so that you may actually go to sleep in a very nice protected atmosphere and in a space that you have infused with the qualities that you want. But some suggestions of Kabbalists is that to use the one in the morning and the other one in the evening. But I tell you this, that is wrong. And it is wrong for this reason. If you banish all the negative, nature abhors a vacuum. Something will fill that space that you have created. So you must fill that space with something positive. So if you give up something, then that space that is created, the vacuum, don't let at random anything to fill that vacuum. You decide to invoke something of a positive order or positive quality into your world. You understand that this ritual that you are doing is only an externalization of the inner consciousness that you are realizing. You understand what I mean? Yeah? So, let's have somebody out here, because we are so many of us. I would have liked all of us go around and actually doing this for a moment. Can we actually do that so that you get into your mind? Take the chairs. We're going to stop in a few minutes anyway, but at least have the experience of all of us participating in this. Then you may be able to get it. You don't have to sit around in your own room doing it on the physical level, but it helps you if you practice it on the physical level. But by practicing on the physical level, you are reflecting it in your inner consciousness level. So let's just try it. Can you stop that now?